Hello and welcome, I am that James guy, and today we are looking at the Hearts of Iron 4 Dev Diary, the latest one, the one that has revealed all about the Barbarossa patch, and we are going to be looking past what you see. We are going to be looking at 5 things that I have gleaned forth from this Dev Diary, and that are really going to change Hearts of Iron 4, and I think for the better, but we will see. And if you haven't read through the Dev Diary yourself and stared blankly at these pictures, you have 2 options. Option 1, you can look in the description where there is a link. Option 2, you can slowly and painfully type out the URL up there, and I will leave it entirely in your own hands what you would like to do. So, the first thing we are going to clearly discover is something to do with the railroads and this new supply system, which I find incredibly interesting and I think will dramatically change Hearts of Iron 4. And the main thing really from this new system, whereby, as you can see from the text, basically supplies travel over a railway line, they get to a hub. We can zoom in on this picture. They get to a hub, a location. It's not letting me zoom. There we go. You get to a location, and then basically the supply decants from the hub, as you can see here, and goes to the divisions via trucks, which are shown in this picture as a further requirement. So your supply moves from capital to hub, then by train, and then truck to division from hub. And the main reason that is so interesting is from an operational and strategic point of view. You can now cut off supply just by taking a single tile. If you're fighting in, I don't know, you've navally invaded Bordeaux, for example, and you've actually taken, say, this tile, and you've taken Bordeaux. Now that means to supply this section and the French divisions or the German divisions or the whatever divisions that are sat here and here, the supply now has to go this way. You have rerouted supply rather dramatically. If you were to take this tile, and this tile out from Bordeaux, and sure, even if there's still French divisions in this forest or over here and they're containing your advance in a line like this, if you've taken this tile, now supply has to go down and across and then down and then over here. And now that puts more strain on the bottlenecks of the system. The fact that there are key hubs, you can only cross this river in 3 places, kind of. I mean, you can cross it here like this, you can cross it here like this, and you can cross it here. You can also sort of do it by crossing over and then back over, but I imagine these bridges act like bottlenecks. Now, this isn't that important when it comes to pretending you're defending France from Bordeaux. Where this becomes very important, especially in multiplayer, something that is very common is that Italy will be the D-Day wall. They will stand along the coastline waiting for the inevitable Allied assault. But their supply has to come from their capital by rail or boat. Which way will it go? Well, we can see there's a bridge in the Alps, and there's another one down here. That means all of the supply for the Atlantic Wall is coming from 2 tiles, effectively. You can kiss your supply goodbye if the Allies decide to strap bomb Provence. And then your entire Atlantic Wall is being crippled. The other option, of course, if you didn't want to bomb Provence, maybe you can't get air superiority there, all of these rail lines look like they go sort of all roads lead to Paris. Now, if that's the case, then just strap bomb Paris, hit the rail hub there, completely devalue and bottleneck the entire supply zone of the whole of France, not just a single part of it. And then you'll just see the Italian soldiers awaiting supply via truck, and If the closest supply hub is all the way over in Milan, you're not going to get very far. You're not going to get much resupply, you're not going to get any org, you're not going to get any combat stats, and you're not going to win. And talking more about the implication of fighting wars with this new supply system, here we have 20 divisions. I do have Heartsfire 4 open, and I did work out where this was. This is Grodno here, and this region is the sort of area next to Lithuania. This is actually a new VP that isn't in the game at the moment, or is it this one? One of these two is new and isn't currently in the game. And this is 20 odd Axis divisions fighting 15, 16, 17. They're out of supply. They're 26 out of 30. They're at almost 90% training capacity, and they've got more than enough trucks. Yet, they're out of supply. We know this is the start of Barb, as they are presumably on the attack, and we also know that the supply system should really be almost at its best. Yet, they are well and truly not in supply. That's bad. That's really bad news, especially for fighting the attack. We can also see, and we don't know how long this combat's been going on, but these divisions are very low strength. I wonder, perhaps, if the distance from your supply depot impacts how long it takes to get reinforcements. And if you're bottlenecked on your supply, is it going to take ages to get equipment to the front line? So there's a lot to think about, and I'd be really interested to hear your opinions and your thoughts on Thing 1, which is the impact of the rail network on supply, and on how we will fight wars on the various bottlenecks on the various front lines. Another very interesting example, and we will quickly just flit into Hearts of Iron 4. A very interesting example will be Ethiopia. Now, very commonly, the Raj sits a whole host of divisions along this border and takes care of Ethiopia at the start of World War II when Italy gets involved. And if there's no railway and no real decent supply network here, how are you going to load up 40 divisions to wander into Addis Ababa? North Africa, how will the supply network impact the back and forth between El Alamein and Tobruk and Benghazi? Is there even a railway here? Who knows? Greece. This is actually one of the other key examples that I thought of. I doubt the Yugoslavian rail network was particularly good in the 30s. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was excellent, maybe it was a poster child for efficiency. Probably not, though, and in that instance, Italy is again supplying a front line via some pretty bad terrain and probably a single tunnel, and are going to be very reliant on shipping supply over to Istria, over to Slovenia, and then onto the railway and up and along and down and in and out and over the mountain and into Greece. Is it going to be easier for the Allies to get supply in Greece compared to the Axis, even though one is supplying overseas and one is not? South Africa, bringing 2, 3, 4 heavy tank divisions to North Africa. The Cape to Cairo Railway wasn't really a thing until the 50s. It wasn't finished anyway. This middle section here didn't really have anything. There was a rail line that went up towards Zimbabwe, and there was a rail line that went down to Khartoum. But currently, if you're playing as South Africa and you are trying to supply yourself in Alexandria, we'll just load up the existing supply network. You can see it runs to Kenya, hops on a boat, ships to Alexandria. If that rail line does not go north, you're going to be shipping to the Cape Town and then off by boat. That's a huge, huge difference, and it makes nations much more susceptible to convoy raiding. Overall, this supply change is going to absolutely change the way wars are fought in Hearts of Iron 4. It's going to dramatically change the way the game plays. So, Thing 2. What we're going to be looking at with number 2 is actually the change to the division design meter that has been subtly hinted at here, with an emphasis on large divisions, something Podcat has written. they're gunning for 40 width divisions. That's something that is huge. That is something that is really going to impact the way the game is played, not least tank divisions, infantry divisions. I see two ways that they might likely do this. One will be via making it impossible to supply 40 width divisions, and the second way would be through changing the way the stats work. I'll be very interested to see how they come up with that. But it will definitely change the way the game is played if you can no longer just use 2 tank divisions to just punch your way straight through the enemy's front line, and you have to rely on a larger mix of divisions, especially when we take into account how bad supply clearly is for just 20 infantry divisions. Now for item 3 on the agenda, the third big thing that I have noticed in this dev diary, the third key take, is this little bit of top bar just here. Why is that so important to you, I hear you ask? Well, if we just quickly flick game capture on, Q transition effect, you can see that these currently live here. Army, Navy and Air XP. So where have they gone? Where are they hiding? What are they planning to do with those? Well, we know hidden behind this is a new button, and we know what it looks like thanks to the April Fool's Dev Diary. We know it is an officer's cap. I wonder if they've moved into there. Well, that is what I thought, until I noticed this. In the top right of this little image, you can see the Army, Air, and Navy XP icons, just happily floating like little clouds. Well, those happy floating little clouds of XP are roughly about here. Sort of floating. Or perhaps they're here. And that picture is more over than I thought it was. We're just going to be alt-tabbing now in and out between the two things. But we know that this corner is lined up roughly with the left edge of this icon. If we tab in, we go to this corner, we go up and we see the left edge of that icon. Those XP icons are where the theatre outliner is. Why is that important? Well, I think that tells us, if we put these into a thing, they wouldn't be here unless this was no longer there. So that tells us that this new button here is something to do with theatres. I think, and this is purely a prediction, I do not know anything, I think we're going to have a more in-depth theatre organisation mechanic. I think we might be seeing a return to custom theatres and the way they impact on supply and organisation. And I think hopefully maybe we'll even see the ability to assign generals or field marshals to specific theatres. Are we going to see a 3-tier army organisation structure? Army group, theatre? And if we do, how is that going to work? What bonuses will it instill? And that's all based on one little UI detail, and I think it's a pretty important one. And if you've got anything that you would like to talk about with regards to what you'd like to see in this possibility of a new organisation for the army system, please write it down in the comments. And we can start a really interesting discussion about things we'd like to see in that new possible system. So that brings us on to number 4. And don't go anywhere, because the 5th one, that's the big one. And that's the one that I think I'm most excited about. But thing 4, we're going back to the dev diary, we're going a clicking once more. And this is the negative, this is the bad one, this is the one that I dislike. But Podcat has confirmed, in Barbarossa we will not see an Italian focus tree. And it was mentioned in one of these dev diary posts. Here it is. No, that's about air warfare. They do want to work on air warfare, and we will look into that. but it's here. No Italy in this expansion. That's sad. I think Italy is possibly the biggest loser from that. They and Russia obviously need the most work when it comes to their focus trees, but if this makes supply and logistics as interesting as I think it does, this DLC, then I think I can look past that. This is probably the single most exciting dev diary for Hearts of Iron 4 that there has ever been, and I can look past one negativity. So on with the big five, the big one, the most important one. And it's this, and it's very, very subtle. But up here, someone mentioned railway guns, and all we got back from Podcat was a wink. And I think that tells us that we're going to see armoured trains and railway guns, and I don't know how they'll implement them or what they'll do, but Podcat being Podcat, yeah, you can, yeah, maybe, who knows. Probably, though. We scroll down, the question was, since it's going to be a land warfare update, should we be expecting a tank designer, or is it not decided yet? I feel like I've spoiled it enough for today features-wise. Big happy face. Look forward to the future diaries for more info. You wouldn't say that unless the possibility of a tank designer exists. And that I am excited for. And on that bombshell, I think we're going to be ending this video. If you have liked it, please do like. If you really, really liked it, then subscribe. I'll be doing a video in this style for every single one of the dev diaries in the lead up to the Barbarossa expansion. We'll be looking at every little thing, peeking through every single detail. And if there's something I've missed, then feel free to tell me on my Discord, where there's a link downstairs, or even in the comments, you can do that too. And if you enjoy my style or want to see more, I stream pretty much every day on Twitch, so do go check that out. There should be a link and a name appearing somewhere around the screen, maybe here or there or wherever, we don't know. But either way, I've been that James guy. It has been a pleasure, and I'll catch you all on the other side.